What's going on, everyone? What an amazing few days of trading. Tons of you guys have made lots of money with me, and I am so happy to hear that. I post all of this stuff for free. Look at this. We went short on Friday because we were looking to close below major levels of support. We sold yesterday for, boom, 100%. Posted all of these live completely for free on Twitter. We sold for 100%, and then the entire day, we were buying into calls, scaling in, averaging in. As the market was tumbling, everyone was like, oh my God, the market's gonna fall. That's it, it's a market crash. But I was posting that we were buying into calls, baby. And then this morning we gapped up, and then guess what? We sold for huge profit. All live, completely for free on Twitter. Something that no one else is doing. Everyone else, oh, you know, I think we might go up. I think we might go down. I'm posting exactly what I'm doing, where I am positioned, my reason for my positions. And without further ado, thank you so much for the likes, the comments, and subscribes. I really appreciate your constant support. I am so happy that I can constantly, bring value to you guys and help you. And yeah, let's get right into the video, guys. So earlier in the day, I said that the SPY needed to close above 437.7, which was this blue trend line here. All right, so as you can see, today the SPY had trouble closing above that level, and we are now trading within this range, essentially, okay? We tested the top of the range, and now essentially the bottom level of support that is very, very important for tomorrow specifically is going to be the 429 to 430 area, essentially, okay? That is going to be a very, very important key level of support for tomorrow on the SPY. We got into calls this morning, and that was essentially all that I did for the entire day. I sold for tons of profit, right? But now, moving forward, what is going to happen essentially for the entire market? So personally, I do think that the SPY can come back and retest this 429 to 430 area, only because, number one, the RSI is still not oversold yet. And the fact that we dumped so heavily, the fact that the RSI is just flattening out here, you can see here, that is not a good sign, and it means that there's still further room to the downside. So I think that this would be a perfect opportunity to, go down even lower. And it would make sense because this huge lower wick here on the SPY, I feel like it still needs to be retested to see if this is a tangible level of support, okay? Overall, there's not really much else to say. Like, this is literally in the middle of, like, this entire move. If you bought here, you're essentially, it's a 50-50 toss-up to go up or down, all right? So there's not really much that the market and the chart is really giving you in terms of direction, okay? That's really it. So that is the analysis on the SPY. I mean, if we can close and hold above 430, 450, then, potentially then we can come and, retest this blue trend line again. But, I mean, honestly, me just dragging this conversation out and over the video would just be a waste of time. Aside from, these prior levels of resistance and support, there's not really much else to even talk about. All right, there's the SPY. Here's a chart of the NASDAQ. You can see that we have a much better defined level of support, which is this 364.84 level. All right. If we close below that level tomorrow, then we'll most likely definitely come and retest the lows here again on the NASDAQ down here at 360.93. Okay. The NASDAQ is also, you can see the RSI is just flattening out while, being very, very oversold and just dramatically falling. All right. You can still see that we're trading outside of the lower level of the B band. But now the B bands have caught up, and we still could not really bounce, okay? And you can see similarity on the SPY. Yesterday, we were trading completely outside of the lower level of the B bands. Today, the B bands have caught up, but we haven't reclaimed completely back in yet. So that's another huge, that's very, very bearish, people. But we caught this knife very, very perfectly. We shorted this very perfectly. And all right, let me continue talking about the NASDAQ. So essentially, this is the main level of support. The RSI on the NASDAQ also points that it can potentially come and fall lower. The MACD is just vomiting here. It still has more room down to the downside if it wanted to come back and retest the May levels on the MACD. Aside from that, I mean, the NASDAQ is going to key off of the rest of the market, which is basically what they all do. So we need to see what the SPY and also the IWM does. But currently, the NASDAQ's at support. So, you know, yeah, the next few days, they're just going to be very, very... You just have to be patient, okay? Wait for the setups to come to you. Do not get FOMO, all right? There's the analysis on the NASDAQ. We're going to go in depth on the 30-year yield, the 10-year yield, and the dollar as well to get a better understanding of the NASDAQ and the Russell, all right? But for now, let's go into the Russell or the IWM. IWM looks absolutely garbage as well. At least it's trading inside the upper level. At least it's trading inside the B bands, right? As opposed to the other two indices. And we did not completely engulf this candle here as well, which is a bit more bullish, right? The RSI still has a lot more room to go to the downside, potentially on the IWM as well. The MACD is not even as oversold as it was when it was trading up here. So that also is, you know, a huge warning signal that there's lots of more potential room to the downside on the IWM. And these are the same levels. You can just pause the video at any portion of the video when I talk about the SPY, NASDAQ, and IWM to see these levels, all right? Aside from that, my bias is we need to wait and see if the SPY is going to come back and retest this trend line. But this is really the main, this is going to be the main channel, essentially, that we're going to be monitoring for now, okay? And depending on what the SPY does, the IWM and the NASDAQ and stuff, you know, everyone is going to follow essentially the same direction, okay? But yeah, I mean, this is not bullish. This is not bullish at all. It doesn't give us any indication that things are going to bounce, all right? But it also doesn't give us huge indications that things are going to fall. But that's why currently, right now, I'm not holding any swing positions. I sold out of all of my positions this morning at the open. And now we just wait and see what happens. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 30-year yield, the 10-year yield, and the dollar. All right, so let's take a look at the 30-year yield. So yesterday, we saw that it closed above the 20 exponential moving average. Today, it looks like it's about to close above as well. If that is the case, then it can point to a continued rally upward, right? And that would potentially be very, very bullish for the NASDAQ, and it would mean that the NASDAQ holding that level of support is actually a good thing, and we would start reversing upward, all right? So the 30-year yield doing this, very, very bullish, okay? This would be the second day in a row that we closed above the 20 exponential moving average through this time, okay? And if we do that twice, then that is a good indication that we can continue on higher, all right? So the 30-year yield overall looks very bullish. If the 30-year and the 30-year yield and the dollar are both bullish, then the NASDAQ is going to be bullish. But if the 10-year yield and the dollar are both bullish, then the IWM will be bullish, okay? So there you have it. Right now, the 30-year yield looks like pretty bullish. So let's see if that'll have an effect on the NASDAQ, all right? Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the 10-year yield. As you can see here, the 10-year yield is having trouble at the 20 exponential moving average. The MACD is overbought, but it's failing at resistance. So that signals that there's tons of room to the downside. The RSI is also, you know, moving upward while the price of the 10-year yield is not really moving upward. So that is also not a good sign. And one other thing I want to check out, the 30-year yield is also overbought, but it's crossing above levels of resistance and still remaining green. So that shows a lot of strength in the 30-year yield as opposed to the weakness in the 10-year. But essentially, if we start to close above these key levels of resistance on the 10-year yield, then that can potentially be very, very bullish for the IWM. Okay. Right now we're just monitoring to see what'll happen. Now, I mean, we see that the 30-year yield is a bit more bullish than the 10-year. So the key determining factor now is going to be the dollar. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the dollar. So the dollar was skyrocketing a few days in a row because of the huge sell-off in the equities market. Okay, so right now it needs to consolidate back down to 92.95 and then potentially back down to 92.7. So if those levels hold and we start to see some sort of strength out of one of these two yields, then we will get a much better understanding of which of the indices, whether the NASDAQ or the IWM, will be the leader in the continued rally. Okay, so overall, that's the entire equities market. Really, right now, there's no clear indication of which way we're going to go. You can make a case for both sides, but you know, currently it's not intelligent to make a trade unless there is a clear bias in one direction. Okay. So yeah, there's the equities market. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the crypto markets. So with Bitcoin, you see that it fell all the way back down to 40,581, which is a level that we were watching a few months ago. Okay. That level is now the new support. So if that level doesn't hold, then we can come back, retest the lows over here, and then break into the high 38,000 level. But currently, that's going to be the level of support. You can see that this bear flag formation has broken to the downside, right, with this move here. And that's also heavily dependent on what happened recently with the equities market in China. And this is what caused the sell-off, right? So as long as this level here holds, then it could be bullish. Things to take into consideration. Number one, Bitcoin's MACD is now oversold, right? Number two, the RSI is not yet oversold, which means that there is potentially more room to the downside, which is not a good sign, okay? But so far, this is the chart of Bitcoin, right? But I think it's also important to take a look at Ethereum to see what Bitcoin can do in the future, right? So here's Ethereum. Obviously, it's not as stable as Bitcoin is as a store of value, right? But it is now much more oversold, and it's still very similar to Bitcoin. The RSI is not yet oversold. So if the entire stock market does continue to fall lower, then that would mean that Bitcoin and Ethereum could also fall much, much lower, all right? Ethereum's next key level of support is going to be right here around 2,700. 2,700 breaks, then I don't really see 2,700 breaking as well. But I mean, regardless of what I feel, 25 to 2,700 is a very important zone for Ethereum to hold. And that would really be devastating if Ethereum broke that level, because then it would potentially mean that Bitcoin has fallen and broken 40,000, right? So we're just going to have to wait and see what really happens overall in the entire market. Right now, it's just a matter of preserving your capital, not losing your money, but sustaining your money and not giving back the gains that you make. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I post every day. Make sure to follow me on everything. I'm very happy that I helped so many of you guys, and I will definitely see you guys tomorrow. Have an amazing day. Thank you.